Hey guys, Moose here. Welcome back to another episode of Life is Feudal Forest Village. I apologize that we haven't had many of these recently. It's been a rough couple weeks here. I got really heavily into some financial analysis and data stuff. And that stuff is serious, let me tell you. I mean, I try to be accurate with most of my data analysis, but start doing financial stuff, that's a whole nother level of, like, you get that wrong, there's, like, potentially legal... Well, there aren't in this case, but... suffice to say, financial stuff is not something you want to be wrong about. If you're doing something like that, you want to make sure that you're doing it right, you want doing it with accurate information, and... Yeah, anyway, so I've been pretty damn busy. So, I apologize that we haven't had a video in a while, but I'm going to try to get back to it. It's a 5-day weekend for me, thanks to Memorial Day. Got a couple days at the back end, and then the Monday, so it's going to be a pretty nice weekend, hopefully. Temperatures finally start to drop. We're getting into winter properly here in Northern California. Things are actually starting to kind of feel alright. You know, it's not quite so damn hot anymore, which, as you probably know, I complain about constantly. So yeah, it's been pretty nice. Ooh, that was supposed to get upgraded. No one's gonna be homeless, right? Yeah. Yeah, they got... Yeah, whatever. You know what? Someone dies, it's not a big deal. Obviously, we don't really want that to happen, but... Stuff happens, right? We're gonna have more housing to accommodate them soon anyway, so whatever, life goes on. Really more worried about our children growing up here. Oh well. But yeah, I don't know, like, I'm trying to think of things to talk about, and like, everything I've got is pretty much just like work stuff that, like, formally I'm under an NDA, I really shouldn't be talking about it, and I don't want to be talking about it either, because this should be in no way tied to anything that I do in my professional life. Not that I consider this to be unprofessional, but, you know. You don't want, if you work for a company, you don't want that company snooping around on your YouTube channel, because it looks bad for everyone. Nothing I'm saying is representing the company, none of it's really related to the company in any meaningful way, so it's just not something you want to have tied to a business like that. It's not my business to do that with. Be disrespectful to the company as a whole to do that. It kind of it's one thing that sucks about the internet, it kind of defaults you as a spokesperson. Even if you're explicitly not in any way a spokesperson of any kind, if you say you work for a company, and then you go online on Twitch or YouTube or something, you're gonna be seen as, like, representative of that company. And there's been a lot of issues with that recently, like, where's that one just absolute scumbag, like, piece of human trash that celebrated Total Biscuit's death on Twitter? And he worked for, what was it, Ubisoft? I only say Ubisoft because I know he was in Montreal. I watched a video about this earlier today. I already knew about it, but I forgot what Gamergate was about, so I kind of was living under a rock at the time that it happened, just focusing on work, so I wanted to watch a video to be like, okay, what the hell is this about again? It's not a simple issue. There are a lot of different things that happened with that situation, so that was part of why... I don't think that had anything to do with why that developer, or whatever the hell they were, they just worked for a developer. I don't know if they were a developer themselves, but that individual said some pretty hateful things about Total Biscuit after he passed away. Pretty sure it was Ubisoft. I feel bad if it's not, because it's kind of throwing a company under the bus, but I'm pretty sure it was Ubisoft. I'm gonna be honest, there's not really a lot of game developers in Montreal. I would know, je suis Québécois. Although not really. That's about as much French as I speak, and I was born and raised in California, so I don't know if it's all that fair for me to say that I'm Québécois, but I am. By heritage, I'm 50% Québécois. I am a Canadian citizen, so it's, yeah, okay. So we had one person die, it's whatever, it doesn't really matter. So I think I have a right to say I'm Québécois, but I don't really have a right to assert that that means all that much, I guess is the way that I'd put it. I'd like to become more Québécois long-term, just because that's a part of my heritage, but I don't really care that much. It's fine. It's, you know, this is wrong. This is totally wrong, because North America is way more complex than this, but I kind of like, in my mind, I kind of think of all of North America basically as like my area, and being somewhat culturally homogenous, which is not at all the case. In fact, it might be one of the most culturally diverse areas on the planet. Especially, like, even just you take one city, you take like Toronto or New York or San Francisco or even LA, probably. Like, there's a tremendous amount of diversity. In pretty much all of those places, you've got people from all the Americas speaking Portuguese, Spanish, English, French, and you've got particularly I would say in Toronto, New York, and then the West Coast, pretty much in its entirety. You have a tremendous Asian population. I work with tons of Filipino guys and girls, tons of Vietnamese people, plenty of Chinese people. Not as many as you'd think, given the population difference between a place like Vietnam and China. I actually work with a surprisingly large number of Vietnamese people. But there's some overlap. There's some of the people I know who are Vietnamese also would say that they're kind of Chinese too. So it's not really a binary thing, I guess. Not as many Japanese people as you would think. I definitely like work with a couple, but not too many. And I'm sure I work with people who are Malaysian and, you know, from the what's that, Southeast Asia you'd call it, beyond the Philippines, but it's mostly Filipinos that I work with from that part of the world. But yeah, I'm sure there's people from the other parts around there that I don't know that's where they're from. But yeah, it's a crazy world these days, in a good way. Like, I'm actually really happy that I get to be around people who are not just like me. I would go insane if I was around people. Well, no, I wouldn't. It would be a very boring life if I was just around people who are like me. I wouldn't go insane. I'd be fine, but it'd be boring. There'd be a lot that I know now that I wouldn't know because of that, and my worldview would be much more narrow, I would say. But yeah, North America is crazy diverse. Tons of different cultures, tons of different stuff. If you look at what people are eating for lunch in my workplace, it's crazy. And that's probably true of everything around here. It's like representation from literally the entire globe. Tons of Indian food, tons of Asian food, Mexican food. Not really that much American food, if I'm being totally honest. It's not like, well, okay, I bring pizza sometimes, but I guess that counts. Or does pizza count as Italian? I'm gonna say that pizza doesn't count as Italian because none of the pizza that I've ever eaten in the U.S. could reasonably be considered to be Italian. Like, there's places that'll say it's like, you know what? They don't really say Italian pizza. They say New York pizza. New York pizza is much more of an endorsement than Italian pizza at this point. So I guess that doesn't really qualify as Italian food, but I eat plenty of pasta as well. But even that's probably not really Italian. I don't know. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. Totally tangential to what I was talking about, but yeah. I should probably go to Quebec more. I've been there a few times in my life. Beautiful architecture. Absolutely beautiful. If you want to see what I'm talking about, you can kind of just... The easy one that everyone would point to is you say, okay, you go... I'm pretty sure it's Montreal. There's St. Lawrence flowing through it. You got a giant river in the middle. It's pretty damn big. It's one of the bigger rivers I've ever seen. And it's at a lower elevation, too, so there's like a... It's like a trench, like a massive trench going through the city, and that's the St. Lawrence. And the St. Lawrence is like half full in that trench. It's crazy. They have slides and stuff on the bank. It's really cool. I think that's mainly for winter, and they get, you know, you get like a... It's like a... Same thing you do if you go to the snow for like a winter vacation. For us, that means Tahoe. I'm sure the different parts of the country have different places to go. But you just slide down it. It's pretty cool. They might... I wonder if they'd turn that into like a water slide or something in the summer. It's probably too humid for anyone to want to do that in the summer. But yeah, Chateau Frontenac. the Frontenac is exactly how you'd expect with a C at the end. F-R-O-N-T, front, literally front, with E-N-A-C at the end. Yeah, I spelled that right. So yeah, you can Google that. Yeah, I'm sure you've probably seen it before. It's a pretty major building, pretty famous building. But there's a lot of other architecture around that that's also really beautiful. It's not just the chateau, which is one of those, like, it's got the green roof, which I'm assuming means copper of some variety, but I don't know. It's basically a castle. We actually stayed there. It's a hotel now, or at least partially. That's really cool. And if I remember right, a lot of places, well, not a lot, but some places in North America were pretty trash at doing public transit, but some places, particularly back east, have underground subway. Like proper underground subway, where you can like actually go around without ever going above ground, and you can cover a lot of distance. Over on the west coast, there's very little of that. It's almost all above ground. No one wants to dig. That's changing a little bit, and there's some instances of below ground stuff in SF, but it's pretty minimal. And I think LA probably just doesn't have any. But I could be completely wrong about that. I don't know LA that well. Anyway, point is, if I'm remembering right, one of the things that I was struck by in Montreal was the underground subway, because a lot of it's brick. Or at least part of it that I saw was brick, and it was like this beautiful underground world that you just walk into, and I was on like a not suspended, but like I was on one floor, and you can look down on any side of it. It was like a square, and you'd see the lower area, which maybe some of it was track, I'm not sure, but it was like you were in an open area, and you were on like a elevated platform that had like stores and stuff, and most of it was like a tiny convenience store or something, but it was still really cool. But brick is like, a lot of you guys may not realize this, but because California is so prone to earthquakes, bricks are like no one builds out of brick here. You just don't. Because you get an earthquake and the brick is done. Whatever you built, it's gone. It's just done. So you don't build with brick here. So seeing something like that, not only made out of brick, but underground, was so completely and utterly foreign to me that it was really cool, and it felt like a little underground world, which is not really something you get to see out here. People barely even have basements out here. It's crazy. Like, nothing goes underground, and part of that is that I think I remember hearing that bedrock is pretty close here. Close to the surface, like the soil thickness is not that much. But I don't know how true that is, because I think one of the reasons that California did so well in the later years of the US was because a lot of the agriculture was in the Midwest, which got screwed up. That's the whole Dust Bowl thing, was basically overuse of agriculture. And then California was relatively untouched, so you still had that fertile soil from having wildlife there. And that kind of gave California a boost. But that would imply that the soil was deeper, which it contradicts what I thought I remember. So I don't know. I don't know anymore. But point is, people don't do a lot of digging here. You'll get like underground parking lots a bit, but even those don't go that deep. And honestly, it's hard to tell when the area around it is just elevated. You know, maybe they just made the roads go up very slightly, and then there's space underneath after a distance. I don't know. But there's not a lot of underground stuff here. So anytime I get to see that, it's cool, you know. Subway in Toronto was kind of not... It didn't really feel like it was underground that much, even if it was. It just kind of felt like, okay, you know, like a short flight of stairs below the road. I'm not really underground that much. Montreal felt much more underground. And that might have been because of when I was there, or it was the first time I'd seen that kind of a thing, or maybe it was just the brick, I don't know, but it was really cool. So if you ever go to Montreal, check that out, and just kind of wander around a bit, because there's a lot of old architecture that's really nice. Given that I don't speak the language, the rest didn't really hit any marks for me, because they're sort of like... I don't know what you guys are talking about most of the time, and they all speak English, but, you know... French is obviously preferred. For obvious reasons. But yeah, that's something I want to learn, but don't have time to. We haven't cleared animals recently. I'm not seeing too many though, so I'm not feeling particularly urged to clear them. Why are we not... We let the trees grow in. I don't know why there's... I mean, there's a bear, but that's not really close to home. Are you carrying any... Oh, you're extinguishing a fire? Yeah, that's not really important, right? Fires are no big deal. I think brick buildings might have been... this is totally just a shot in the dark, but I think, if I'm remembering right, brick buildings in San Francisco might have been one of the issues that led to the fire following... Was it the 1906 earthquake, I think, being so devastating? Was because a lot of the buildings couldn't hold up. Like, they couldn't stand up to it. Which, you know, if it's one house on a, you know, ranch or something, which a lot of the other stuff in California was, who cares? Because it falls down, it's like, okay, well, it's not going to fall on anything, and even if a fire starts, it's not going to light anything else on fire. But if fire starts in that situation where you've got all these buildings falling down, you know, that's a big problem. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, maybe not bricks specifically, but just buildings that couldn't stand up to earthquakes in general. I think that was one of the major issues. This is not good. Because these seem to probably both they're probably both gonna catch on fire every time we have that. If one of them goes, the other one goes too. And my fear is that the only reason this one's not burning is because it's not finished yet. I'm guessing that's probably the only reason. So then we may actually have 3 houses that are gonna catch on fire every time. Which is obviously not a great situation. But I think we're just going to have to deal with that. Life goes on. But yeah, for whatever reason I kind of mentally think of North America as being homogenous and kind of being the same, like... I mean, American and Canadian is not really that different, to be honest. No more different than Californian versus Texan or something. And much like with Californian versus Texan, a lot of that is stereotype. It's not necessarily like a real representation of what anyone there thinks. It's just, you know, not all Californians are hippies. I would actually say that in Northern California we're much more business-driven and, like, more corporate, I guess, maybe, than hippie. And yeah, we're tech corporate, so it's a little bit different. We're a little bit more... I would say results-driven. It's not really about, like, suit and tie, and you gotta dress appropriately, and you gotta be at work at this time, and leave at this time, and you follow the routine. It's not like, we don't really care about routine as much as we care about results. We're much more about results. Getting things done. That's not always true, but that's the way I see it, anyway. That's how I feel about this area. Whether or not that's reality is a whole different conversation, because I am just one guy who... Let's be honest, I haven't really been in the workforce that long. At the end of the day, I'm only 31, so it's less than a decade working here. That's actually a lot longer than I thought, never mind. But I've only really been at one major job. I've had other jobs, it's just the one, like, good, serious office job where I'm, like, actually using my brain and being, like, a productive person as opposed to... Oh, I just shit on... I didn't mean to shit on retail workers. I'm not saying retail workers don't use their brain. I'm saying that retail work sucks and it's miserable. That's more what I'm getting at. It's not the worker's fault at all. It's the employer, if anything. But yeah. Mostly it was always that work. It wasn't usually what I'm doing now. It was stocking shelves, not filling out spreadsheets. And believe me, I much prefer spreadsheets. I'm very good with spreadsheets. It's great, because my boss realized that I'm good with spreadsheets, so I'm going around modernizing everyone's chaotic. Everyone's got like their, hey, this is the report that my job is to refresh this report, and it takes a full day. I'm like, come on, dude, I can automate this. It'd take you like 2 seconds every day. What are you going to do with all your time? And my boss knows that, so he's having me automate a bunch of people's reports. And they still have to work on them, and they still have to understand the data. So I'm not trying to like insult my coworkers. They have to have an expertise surrounding what that data means. But it you know, it's eliminating like a day's worth of busy work that they're doing workarounds because they need to set things up to match properly, and maybe this thing has a different categorization scheme, which isn't what they want, so they have to recategorize everything, and they do it manually. That kind of thing. Which takes like 2 seconds in a VBA macro, but takes like a whole day for, you know... Maybe one of you guys is probably super tech literate. You can go around a computer any day, you know, fast as hell, same as me, but... You know, you gotta understand the people who are in the workforce are anywhere from 20 to 70-something. And after about 30... well, really even 20-year-olds. There's 20-year-olds that don't know how to use computers. Plenty of them. So it's not even an age thing. Plenty of people don't know how to use computers. Let's just leave it at that. It has nothing to do with age, really. Maybe if they're older, they're more likely to not know what to do. But really, it's anyone can suck with a computer, believe me. I've seen it many, many times. Plenty enough times to know that even a 15-year-old can be garbage with a computer. In fact, well, maybe 20 would be a more fair way of saying that, because plenty of 15-year-olds are, you know, not going to know what to do anyway. They haven't had the experience, but anyway. All that aside, sorry if... I don't know, like, to me this is super interesting stuff, and it's kind of what I've always talked about, so I hope you guys don't mind the kind of, like, work and location talk. I just feel like someone stabbed me in the throat right now, so that feels great. I just lost my voice, but... Hopefully you guys are interested in it too. I enjoy it. This has kind of always been the way I talk and the kind of thing I talk about, so I hope you guys still enjoy that, but I'll probably get away from it for the next one, or try to anyway. I gotta figure something else to talk about. I always go in thinking I have nothing to talk about, and then I find something and just rant for 20 minutes, so... I guess that's my brand, huh? Anyway... On that note, thank you very much for watching. Hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. If you did, there's always more on YouTube, which is not the way the outro goes, and I've lost my spot because I haven't done this in a little while. But yeah, if you did enjoy it, I stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/electronicmoose. Currently the schedule's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but I might go back to Sunday, Wednesday, Friday. I'm not sure at this point. But 6 to 8 p.m. PST, 9 to 11 p.m. EST is when you'll find me live there, so feel free to come by and check it out if you'd like. If not, thanks for watching here on YouTube, and I will see you next time. Take care.